Welcome to the Medical Maze. I'm your host, Dawn Ellen Ray, and today we're going to be talking with Michelle Fruscione, whose daughter Haley has Jordan syndrome. But first, let's say hello to my co-host, Phil.
Hey, Donnell, it's been a little while. Missed you. This episode is going to be really interesting because from reading, I thought it had some similarities to autism. So, I'm going to learn something new today.
Yeah, I think that is the case. I think it's misdiagnosed, and since we focus on a lot of misdiagnosed conditions, I think this is going to be an interesting one. So let's say hello to Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. Also, I just want to go ahead and post this real quickly or just state this, that you also have a blog about this condition called Mama Bear for Rare.
Yes.
So if you hear about Michelle and Mama Bear for Rare, they are the same. So
we'll put the link in the description too, so you can check it out.
Yeah, because if anyone wants to go and find out even more after this episode, that's a great resource. So anyway, so let's talk about you, your family, Haley, and this condition. So what exactly is Jordan syndrome, say from a medical standpoint, as you're aware of it and how Haley's been diagnosed?
So it is an ultra rare neurological disorder, and it's been misdiagnosed for many years. When we first learned of it, I think there were only 200 people globally diagnosed with Jordan syndrome. And the numbers have grown tremendously since. I think we're up to 350 and counting, which I think scientifically speaking is amazing just to see numbers growing. But Jordan syndrome really does affect each individual differently, whether it's hypotonia, which is low muscle tone, seems to be the most present symptom, especially for my child, for Haley. Seizure disorder affects some of the population, visual issues, and really just global developmental delay. A lot of the individuals are nonverbal, but do end up speaking at some point in their life. And I think my definition of nonverbal, which I'm sure we'll get to later on, has definitely changed, because verbal doesn't just mean words. Verbal means being able to express yourself. And although Haley doesn't have words like us, she sure can express herself. So we're learning a lot about, disease and rare disease and just the medical world in general.
Wow. And how old is Haley now?
She just turned 4 in February. So
4. Okay.
She's a big girl now.
So was she diagnosed with this early, or did you just start noticing things and then you said, hey, we got to find out what's happening here?
So when she was actually born, there weren't any indicators, I think, to the naked eye that there was maybe something wrong. I felt it in my bones that there was. And that's kind of when I started searching and researching. And as she was getting older, it was a little bit more apparent that she was missing milestones and she wasn't doing what a typical, newborn would do. And I also have an older son, so I was, unfortunately comparing those two, which you shouldn't compare any child, but just going back and looking at pictures and seeing what he did at that age and what she wasn't doing, I think was a really strong indicator that we definitely needed more answers.
Well, and let's give mamas credit. Mamas know their babies. So
they do.
If you knew something wasn't right, and no offense, Phil, to dads, I don't mean that. I'm just saying.
We don't know nothing.
I'm just saying that mamas, man, in the gut, Yeah, when something just isn't right, and then it sets you on your journey. So was there a test for this that would diagnose it, or were you just basically doctor hopping till you could find someone who could give you some answers?
It was really difficult just because it was the height of COVID. Like, she was born a week before COVID, so we weren't really able to get her into doctors. And, a lot of the virtual visits weren't as effective as being in person, because a lot of the things I was describing as a non-medical individual didn't really make sense to doctors. I was like, I put a coat on her and it was really hard to get it on her arm. And I think what I was trying to explain was that she was low tone, but I didn't know how, because I didn't know that was really a thing. It wasn't something I could describe, but it was kind of doctor hopping. And to be quite honest, I spent a lot of time on Google and I really tried to find symptoms, and I pretty much gave her a new diagnosis every single day based on what I saw on the internet.
Yeah, Dr. Google. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. But when you've tried to go the right path and tried to go the medical path and you not get any answers, what do you do? I mean, that's
Right.
kind of what you resort to. I mean, what else do you have?
Right.
So, but that makes sense. So, and then you're trying to explain these kind of unique things to doctors. Oh, she can't get her coat on, and I'm sure they're like, oh, and
Yeah.
at that age, I'm not, okay, okay,
Right.
be patient.
You
Or
just like, and it's something
yeah,
that I can't really explain. I'm trying
mm-hmm,
to explain that, like when my son, when I would dress him, there was a little bit more give in his arm and it was easier to dress him. But with her, it was like there was really no tone in her arm that was allowing me to dress her. And
mm,
how do you explain that to a pediatrician that can't really see her? It's just like little things that you're starting to notice that do end up becoming bigger things. And you
mm-hmm,
you study every inch of your child and you just go on Google and you're like, is there a child that has the same facial structure, or
right.
is missing this milestone? And unfortunately, sometimes with rare diseases, you're just not going to find those answers.
Yeah, doing the doctor hopping is something that I'm very familiar with myself. When you were going from doctor to doctor to doctor, were they just as stumped as you are too?
I think so. And I love medical professionals. I really do. I put so much trust in them. But I think for every doctor, sometimes, they may not know the answer, so they kind of jump to their own conclusions. Haley was
Right.
actually misdiagnosed by a geneticist very early on at, I believe, 3 months. And he was pretty certain that her diagnosis was what he thought. He thought she had, achondroplasia or dwarfism.
Oh,
And he kind of sent me on my way and was like, yeah, we'll get a blood test and it will confirm that that's what she has. But I just didn't feel that in my gut because based on my own research, not that I'm a doctor, but based on my own research, she just wasn't fitting into that criteria. Like maybe her head shape, but all the other cognitive delays and the other delays that she was experiencing just didn't fit into that mold. So that was a little disheartening, kind of trying to figure out like why this doctor was so certain that she had this diagnosis. And then to learn a month and a half later that she didn't was really difficult because then it was like starting from scratch.
oh gosh, yeah, I can only imagine the
Yeah.
frustration because that would be, a geneticist. You're thinking, oh well, I would
Right.
believe that you would know. And then yeah, so was it just the arms or was it legs? And then you mentioned her head shape. So was it as she was growing you were noticing these things, or was
I
it
mean, she had an enlarged head and
okay?
frontal bossing, but unfortunately, going back to that time, he didn't really look at her extremities, which actually
Mm,
were proportionate. So really, the only thing he
okay,
went by was just the shape of her head and how it was a little bit larger. And to me, that's not best practice because he didn't really listen to all my concerns. So I think that it kind of made me a little weary going into other you know expert opinions and trying to really navigate everything I'm seeing because I'm the expert on Haley. The doctors are the
right.
experts in their field, but I know Haley, and trying to explain that to doctors is probably the hardest part, to make sure that they're actually listening.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask you. I'm going through the same thing with my son too, and so when we know our children, and one thing I noticed, and I'm not knocking any doctors at all, it's just I feel that they don't have the empathy really much anymore. That they're kind of straightforward. Okay, they have this, and this is what we're going to treat. Have you, and the doctor hopping that you've done, have you experienced that as well? Like with the doctor you just talked about, has it been all of them have been like that, or just that one isolated incident?
I think that was really the only negative experience we've had. Otherwise, we have been so lucky that we have just found the most caring professionals, especially the doctor who actually diagnosed Haley.
Mm,
Was a neurologist, and, she was 8 months old. And that neurologist was so gentle in her delivery. And she made sure that she found everything she possibly could on Jordan syndrome before presenting it to our family
mm,
because she had never heard of it. And I think as a medical professional, when you don't know something, whether or not, your pride is hurt, I think just being able to say, like, hey, I never heard of this. And, I'm going to help you find direction. And that doctor really did and was very, just wonderful in navigating, hey, there's a Facebook family group out there, like join it and learn more. But, I think for the most part, you're always going to find, whether it's any profession, you're always going to find someone that maybe doesn't lack doesn't have the empathy that you would hope. But, I think when you find your people or you find the people that do, then that's just really wonderful.
I'm just kind of curious because this one doctor, I think it sounds like he was so sure. Oh, I'm just so sure this is what it is. So I'm just, here it is, send you on your way, right? What did
Mhm.
he say when it came back and the test said, no?
Well, I actually never got a call from the office. I had followed up and,
Mm.
Oh, he's embarrassed.
yeah, I never heard from him again, to be honest. The genetic counselor was the one who actually called me back. And, they kind of just said to me, like, hey, you can keep going with this or you can take a break. And, you know, I don't know. It just felt like that office really, they didn't know. So that's kind of when I was like, all right, I'm packing it in and I'm going to find someone else. And I moved on and, we found other specialists. But that wasn't the most amazing experience I've had.
Oh, really? So, well, and let me ask, so the doctor that finally diagnosed, and I'm just going to, what area of the country are you in? You're in the U.S., so what area of the country are you in?
So I'm in New Jersey,
Okay.
and we're fortunate because we're actually really close to the lead geneticist that is really researching Jordan syndrome was at Columbia Hospital in New York City.
Great.
So that was amazing for us. It kind of just aligned, and it was really helpful.
Oh, that's good. I'm just thinking if anyone has any questions or suspects anything, that there's a resource there that maybe they can
Yes.
contact. So, okay. Okay. So then you found this one who did some research and found out that it was Jordan's, didn't know about it, but somehow stumbled across it and then presented it to you guys.
Yes.
So do you feel like that then at that point it clicked and it fit?
I think so. I think that I just remember kind of being in her office and when she gave me a package of information. And one thing that really stood out to me was Jordan, which Jordan syndrome is named after. She's now 16 years old, but she
Mm.
showed me a picture of her as a little girl. And just seeing her and then seeing my daughter, I was like, wow, she looks like Kaylee. And I think it clicked for me like, okay, I have an answer.
Wow, that's great. So there is it's named after an actual patient named Jordan, and
Mhm.
Jordan is 16 now.
Yes, I believe
So
16. Don't quote me on that.
okay, right, but probably teenager or
Yes.
you know, growing up, and
Mhm.
so evidently then you can see that there is some there's some sort of treatments coming down the road. So, but first you needed to get diagnosed. So, is the easiest way to do that through genetic testing of some kind?
So I do believe that many of the individuals who have received their diagnosis has been like through genetic testing. With Haley's case, her neurologist had actually sent out extra blood work and she had
Mm.
put in macrocephaly and she had put some other indicators in. And I think we were just lucky that it came back because it's so rare. And I do know that a lot of patients didn't have the same outcome as us. But I think that if someone does suspect Jordan syndrome, that there might be more indicators now as it's becoming a little bit more well known.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I didn't know if maybe you reached out to her parents, Jordan's parents, or someone like that, maybe for some guidance on how to proceed with this or not.
Actually, her family, the Lang family, they're kind of it for us. Joseph, her father, Joe Lang, he was a huge resource, and he's a huge resource for the Jordan's community, for Jordan's Guardian Angels, in so many different ways. And we have this huge network on Facebook, and it's just kind of reach to we're sending each other messages through the phone and
Oh,
we're
that's good.
talking whether it's every day or every few days, but we're able to compare notes on what our children are doing or things that we've noticed. So just that community has been really essential for us.
Oh, I think that's great. Yeah. I mean, to feel like you're not alone now that you have a name for it. So, some of the symptoms you said, so you got this diagnosis, but then some of the symptoms that you said for Haley was the muscle tone, the head, and then these are some others that when I was just doing my research that I saw, and I know that I believe that each case is individual as to will they have just some of these symptoms or all these symptoms and maybe how severe they are. Is that true that it's very
Yes.
individual?
Yes.
Okay. So for Haley, so she had the muscle tone. What else did she have or does she have now that you were trying to treat?
So, she does suffer from seizure disorder. So we
Okay.
are, currently treating that with, meds. And it seems pretty controlled. And she gets, her EEGs yearly. And, we're just kind of trying to follow that. She does have some visual, concerns. She just got glasses and they're the cutest things I've ever seen. um,
Oh, good. And Laura, that's so cute. Yeah.
I know they're so cute, but getting them to stay on is a little bit difficult, but we're figuring it out. We'll get there. Um, but language delays. She doesn't fully have words yet. I always say yet because she has a lot of language and she has a lot of things that she wants to say and she communicates in different ways. And she just I hate using the words, but the milestones, we call them inch
Mm-hmm.
stones in our family.
Oh, okay.
It just takes
Me
a little bit
too.
longer.
Oh my gosh.
I love that, right? It's just
Yeah.
like because they get there at their own time.
Oh my gosh. I thought we made that up.
I thought I made it up too, and then I was like, I didn't make that up, but
But I'll claim it. That's okay.
I'll claim it.
Oh, and just I don't know. My son was just born with poor eyesight, so I don't know if you heard this too, but just it was advice to me because he got his when he was like 1. But they're like, watch car windows, open car windows, and toilets because they like to throw them out the window or
Oh
flush them
gosh.
down the toilet.
Oh no. Okay, I will be aware of that.
I'm just saying, I'm like, oh, good advice. I wouldn't have thought about it, but it makes sense.
Yep.
Even though it had a little band around his head, just whing, out the window it'd go or the toilet. Every time it flushed, you're like, oh, did you put anything in it?
Are they in there?
That's hilarious.
It's true. No kidding. So any parents out there with young kids with eyeglasses, just some advice.
Yep. That's good
that was-
advice.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Hey, hey, Michelle, let me ask you this. So Jordan syndrome is really, really rare. I think what it said, 200,000 people have it worldwide.
Oh no, 200.
200, sorry, even less.
Yeah.
When you found when they gave you that diagnosis, you didn't even know what it was, right? You're like, what is that?
Right.
And even the doctor was like, this is something that's extremely rare. When you hear something like that, what goes through your mind when you hear that? Oh, my child is one of 200.
I remember that moment, and
Mm.
I just kind of I feel like that I can't even explain that feeling, but it was just all encompassing. Like I just felt I think a little bit more isolated than I had before because it's like this rare disease. Now, what community do I have? Who am I going to, talk to? Thankfully, fast forward, like this amazing community I found and has grown. But I think in the moment you feel lost and alone and you don't know what you're going to do or how you're going to get answers or, where to go next.
Wow. Yeah, I can only imagine. That's so few. And then you mentioned the Lang family. So how long before you actually made a connection with them?
Literally that night.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay. Good.
yeah,
Good. Good.
we joined the group, and that night we had several messages from families with Jordans who were welcoming us to the group and sharing pictures and messages of hope. And I mean, it was like the fastest turnaround we could have possibly asked for.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Because I know that when I was doing my research on this, I read where it can be misdiagnosed for other things. So you already had one misdiagnosis.
Mhm.
And thank goodness you found someone shortly after that did. What are the common misdiagnoses for this?
So a lot of the children, or I should say individuals, because the ages range now, but autism has definitely been
Mm.
kind of the umbrella that a lot of people have been given as a diagnosis, just kind of like, oh, I don't know, we think it's autism. That's definitely something I know for Haley, it was achondroplasia. I've never heard of that for other patients, but I think autism seems to be one of the most common. And then there was an individual who actually was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and it wasn't until he passed away that they did realize it was Jordan syndrome. So that's been something really important that I think they've looked at with research is the link between Parkinson's and Jordan syndrome.
Wow. Wow. So you think that gentleman probably he was not diagnosed until post
Yes.
his death.
How,
So,
how hard is it to ask for this test? Because there are some doctors that are like, you don't need to take this test. This is so rare. How do we even get to that point of asking, hey, can we get tested for this?
Yeah, I don't even, I always wondered that because I guess I'm in a different place than I was, but I can't imagine like now if I went up to someone, I said to a medical professional, like, hey, can you test for Jordan syndrome? Like, is that something that they're just going to be like, sure? Like, I don't
Mm.
know because it's so rare, like, what are the odds? But at the same time, when you look at all these rare diseases, you really kind of wonder, is it so rare or is it just that we're still learning about it? And maybe there's a lot of people out there that have been given this autism diagnosis and maybe they do have Jordan syndrome, and that's speaking for anything. And I think that when you really look at all these rare things, how rare are they really? There's so many
Yeah, and
people in this world.
yeah, I think that's like you said, the misdiagnosis. Right? This gentleman, he was, not until after he died did they even realize it. So you
Right.
do wonder how many people like that. And then talking about the testing, I thought I read where some of the testing, some sort of sequencing or some sort of genetic sequencing testing
Yeah, the genomic sequencing.
are so expensive that
Yeah.
it's really out of reach for some people. And
Right.
that's a shame because then you may not they may not get the diagnosis they need in order
Right.
to seek the treatments they need.
Yeah, like will insurance cover that test? They probably won't, will they?
Probably not.
Yeah, yeah, I doubt it. I mean, at least thank goodness you have a community of some folks that somehow I guess were diagnosed. So I don't know if there are other tests other than the one I read about that was so expensive,
Right.
that you can lean on and say, okay, no, we're pretty sure that this is what it is.
But when you
Michelle,
even look at like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'll ask you once you're done.
Even when you look at testing, when you look at newborns, like I know that there's this,
Hmm.
general panel. And when I was sitting in the NICU with Haley and I said, I want more testing done, they did more testing, but it's all the typical, I'm quoting typical things that, someone would look for. And you're not going to find a rare diagnosis when they're just doing things that we know about. So when does it become where they start adding these other, diagnoses so that people aren't wondering, leaving a NICU and they're saying, well, your daughter's fine, like she doesn't have this or she doesn't have that. But then, you have a parent like me who's like, well, there's still something and I don't feel like I have an answer.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. So you said that Haley has seizures, right?
Hmm.
Um, Now not all seizures are convulsions. Like,
Right.
so how what are hers like?
So hers seem to be more of the absent seizures, and they seem very quick with her. She's had a few atonic seizures where she'd have like a little bit of a head drop, but
Mm.
it really does seem like it's pretty controlled now with her medication, just Onfi. We played around with medications for a little bit, but at this moment, it seems like we have it, under control, which is great.
Okay, yeah, because I every episode we have, I'm like, wait, does my son have this stuff? Because I'm looking, because we go through so many things, and
Yeah,
we
yeah. You're
all the
looking for
doctors
answers. Yeah.
that he deals with are like, we don't know what's wrong with him.
Yeah.
Or they just say he has autism, and then they just kind of leave it at that. But nothing or no treatment is working. So
Right.
so I'm secretly writing down notes. Be like, I just text my wife, say, look up Jordan syndrome.
Well, yeah, because isn't one of the symptoms of this maybe the nonverbal or
Yeah, because my
and
son's nonverbal as
yeah,
well, but he's the
yeah,
loudest person I know.
yeah,
Same with
yeah.
Haley. They should meet. How
So
old is
and
he?
He's 11. My son's
Okay.
11. Yeah, he'll be 12 this year. But
when did he get diagnosed as autistic?
he was 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years old. Yeah, but he's been having these things like, so with the reason why I asked for the seizures, because he doesn't have the convulsing
Hmm.
seizures. His is like he gets into rage mode,
Okay.
so it's like extreme anger,
Okay.
or he'll just stare off into like the distance for like an extended period of time.
Mm.
And so we're
Right.
like, what the heck is that?
Yeah. I
And
know with like especially with Jordan's, there are a varying degree of different types of seizures. It's not just, some kids definitely deal with, different seizure activity.
Hmm.
Haley seemed to be a little bit more benign. But, I think that it can definitely vary.
what about Haley's like the way like, I know you said that she had difficulty like put on her her shirt and stuff, but like, can she do like, can she use the bathroom, or is she able to put on
No, not yet.
shoes or anything like that?
No, she's we just kind of were working on sitting because a lot of those
Okay.
things were difficult for her, and she just actually completed a 3-week intensive therapy program called DMI, and she's like pretty close to sitting independently, like
Oh,
a
great.
lot. And to us, that's huge. Like,
Yeah.
as we say, the inch stones, it is like a huge one for us. We've been working on this for 4 years, and to see her sitting independently is just like the most beautiful thing for us.
Oh, wow, that is awesome. That is awesome. And it's good to see that, your tenaciousness in these therapies and whatever are paying off,
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
slowly and in maybe small steps, but they're
Yeah.
paying off. So you know that something's working here. And that's got
Mhm.
to be, I just can't imagine that feeling. That's just got to be relief and joy. And
Yes.
I just can't imagine. So does she, so nonverbal, right? Right now, does she say any words at all?
No, but she does have a lot to say.
Okay.
She's
Mm-hmm.
very loud, um, and she's very expressive. So she doesn't have words, but she has different voice inflections that we kind of know, what she wants. Especially if her favorite show, Coco Melon, is off, she is usually pretty angry about it, but in the
Oh,
sweetest,
really?
cutest way possible. But she doesn't communicate like typical children, but I think one day she'll get there.
Have you
Oh,
had a chance to look at the Proloquo app on the iPad?
No.
All right, look at that. That has been a game
I'm gonna
changer.
write that
Now
down.
it's expensive as hell. It's like $300 for an app,
Okay.
but it's like a PEX board, but it's with electronics. So like you program what you want in it, and they can communicate that way. So like with my son, he loves food. That's how we can get him to do things. So if we're like,
Okay.
oh, you want some
Get it.
Cheerios? I need you to do that. And so he'll go to his iPad and say, I want, and then he hits Cheerios. And then for him to get it, he has to say please. So he has to go navigate through the thing and say please. And then when he's done, he has to say thank you. And so, but
I
you
love
can
that.
customize it any way that you can. So you can put emotions, you can put locations, you can put your faces, say I want mommy or anything like that. And it's been a complete game changer with us being able to communicate. Same thing with the bathroom too. So he can say I need to use the bathroom, and it works
That's
wonders.
wonderful.
Yeah. If you need more insight, I'll tell you off the air.
Yeah,
But yeah,
please.
it's
I would
great.
love to hear more. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, that sounds great. And I like the idea of this collaboration here on things that
Yeah.
have worked and helped. And I'm sure it's what you get from your community as well.
Hmm.
What works with some of those folks and because I know some are so individual. So I guess, now, do they all have the majority of the symptoms, or are they just almost pick and choose in a way of the
Yeah.
symptoms, or just they're just a different degree of the symptoms?
I think just a different degree would
Okay.
probably be the best way to explain it.
Okay.
It does seem like hypotonia really is probably the most present among the community.
Okay.
And, I feel like as I talk to other parents and I see, their children, I think I was a little disheartened for a while because I was seeing these kids that were a little bit younger than Haley, sitting and then crawling. And,
Mm,
I think that it's hard for parents to compare in general. And then when you're even looking at a child with disabilities and comparing like a bigger community like that, or, I'm sorry, a smaller community of others with disabilities, I think it gets even harder because you're like, my kid's not doing that. And that, I don't know if I can explain what I'm trying to say, but I think it's hard to see your child just not doing things. And then when you see your child doing things, it becomes like you just celebrate it and you embrace it and you're
oh yeah.
so unbelievably happy.
Yeah, don't do the compare, mama, because
Yep.
what if their symptoms weren't as severe? I mean, so it may appear that they did it quicker, but
Right.
maybe not, right? If there
Right.
wasn't as severe. What
I
about
think comparing is the worst thing we could
yeah.
do.
Yeah, because boy, sometimes I'm sure that you set yourself up almost in a way
Mhm.
sometimes because you're like, oh, my should be doing that. Why is that not happening? I'm doing this right. I'm doing that right.
Right.
I'm doing. You beat yourself up. It's just yeah, that's just a vicious cycle. Yeah, you know.
Does this affect more girls and boys, or is it kind of equal?
Um, I've never really thought about it. I think that it seems pretty equal. I think it's I'm trying to think of the community. It seems like there's a pretty good mixture. Um, I don't know. I've also noticed. So Haley was actually a twin, and she you know, we lost the other child pretty early on in my pregnancy. But there's like a few twins in the community as well, where one twin is affected and the other is not. So I
Okay.
don't know. I just think there's like this whole mystery behind, all of it.
Yeah, so that's a good question because, why you have an older child, they don't have it.
Right.
And then, what was it this one? Just this, I guess they say gene mutation and you don't know, right?
Right.
So that doesn't mean that that a parent would pass it on to the next child at all necessarily. Are
Right.
the
So
chances
obviously
kind of
some
low?
parents can, but in our case, we did the testing as well
Mm-hmm.
for research purposes too, because they're doing a tremendous amount of research and they're
Mm.
making a lot of progress. But
Oh, good.
we weren't carriers, or we don't have the gene mutation. So for Haley, it was just a random mutation
Mm-hmm.
on the
Mm-hmm.
gene when she was in utero, and yeah, that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. Yeah. And then here you are, you're just trying to figure it out on the fly,
Right.
right
Right.
after.
How does your older child help, or how do they view Haley? Do they help out, or are they kind of distant? How's their relationship?
My son is amazing. Just within this like last week, seeing how excited he is that she's sitting, and he's constantly bugging
Oh.
me like, "Mommy, get her to sit with me again." Not bugging, I shouldn't say bugging, but
Oh. Yeah.
he's just so proud and so happy. And all he's ever wanted was to play with her, and he's found different ways to play with her and help do things. But I think to see the two of them like sitting after 4 years, if that's all I've really wanted, is just to see them playing in that way has been truly amazing. But, I think for my son Noah, like he sees other typical siblings and their relationships. And I think, he doesn't express it, but I think he, always wanted that. But he sees that he has a sister who's different in her own beautiful way. And I think that, he embraces it and he's learning a lot from it. He's become this empathetic boy who, when we went to the park, there was another child who looked like he was struggling a little bit with walking. And, he said, "Can I go help him?" And, I
Oh.
think that could be within him, just who he is. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that having a sister with disabilities has also kind of sped
Mm-hmm.
up that empathetic piece of him.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Oh
That's
man.
just got to make your
Yeah.
warm your heart, make you
Yeah.
proud.
I'm
Yeah.
proud. I'm proud of him.
So does because you mentioned the walking here. So Haley, can she walk at all? Or will she be
So,
able to, do we think?
I mean, I am very hopeful and very positive, and after
Okay.
seeing her in this therapy, I think she's going to do it all.
Oh, good.
Just what she did in 3 weeks, I was able to actually see her in her therapy because she's at school getting all the therapy, and for me to see her really working as hard as she does, I think she'll walk one day.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So then what is the prognosis of some of these things then? So with the right therapies, can they, they can at least progress, right? They can
Right.
they can do better. I mean, I don't know long term, can they have enough treatment and therapy that they can almost be symptom free, or is that just without the beyond reach right now?
I don't know about symptom free, but I think that, again, like we kind of mentioned before, it's definitely varying from each individual. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's some people who've kind of gone through life not really having a diagnosis and kind of functioning pretty
Okay.
typically. So, and my hopes for Haley is, she is who she is, and, whatever she can accomplish, we're going to be proud of and happy. But I really
That's great.
see her being a child who's just going to keep pushing herself, and as far as she can get, we're going to get her there, and,
Oh,
and the
that's awesome.
possibilities are endless. So,
Oh, good. I mean, does it affect cognitively or just more developmental? Is she a 4-year-old cognitively? Is that
so cognitively, she's definitely delayed.
okay?
And because she can't fully express what she's thinking or what she wants
Mm-hmm.
to say, I think that that's definitely hard for her. But I know that she understands there's a lot of receptive language. I tell her to do something, and sometimes she will, sometimes she won't, which is a pretty typical 4-year old.
Yeah, we're
um,
sure. Yeah.
for sure. But definitely cognitive delays. And, but I think that, being a special educator and being a mom to a child with disabilities, I'm able to kind of look beyond what she can't do, and I
Hmm.
kind of focus on what she can.
Oh, well, great though. But it sounds like that there, she's in great hands, and that you're guiding that process, and that she sounds like she has a good outlook,
Yeah.
for later on in life. I mean, that's good to know that therapies will help. That it may not be fix it all, but they can certainly help, and that she could have a productive life and be happy and healthy, and
Yeah.
what more could a parent ask for, really?
Right.
So I just think that's awesome. So you said there's a lot of research being done. So what is happening? Is it with the foundation that you mentioned? Jordan's Guardian Angels. Sorry, I was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jordan's Guardian Angels, it's incredible. They've been like working around the clock, even during COVID. I feel like they were, working on different, drug trials, and I'm hopeful that there'll be one soon. And I just know with like science progressing so much and all the wonderful developments that we've kind of seen, I think even just looking at like COVID and what they were able to do in such a short period of time, I'm pretty hopeful that there will be, something one day. And I think that, sensor diagnosis, I was like, we need a cure, we need a cure. And as happy and hopeful and positive that would be, if there isn't a cure, like Haley is Haley, and we love her and we'll support her with or without. But I am also very positive and hopeful that there will be a cure or a treatment, or something to kind of make it easier for her, which, is something that we just hope for her.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Because I was wondering, is there hope for a cure in the sense that maybe they can correct these mutations, or somehow after they're born give them, because it's a protein complex, right, that's affected with these mutations. So,
Right.
Or can they do something to reverse that? Or are they just developing better therapies and treatments to get them in a more advanced state? I just wasn't sure if that was what
think
the
both.
goal. Okay.
Yeah, I think those are both two pretty big goals that they're focusing on right now. So, we'll kind of just wait and see. And, I think that we're in pretty good hands. We have like a great research team who I was lucky enough to meet at our first conference, and we have another conference this summer. But, just kind of listening to them, and just so smart and knowledgeable and passionate. And, I'm really, really excited to see, what they come up with.
Well, I know that one of the hardest things with any sort of rare condition, because we've heard it over and over again, is that the funding isn't there if there aren't a large percent of the population that has it. It's just hard to get the funding for it. So I don't know. I know that you said before when we were talking about the gentleman who had Parkinson's, they thought.
Yes.
But that there may have been some link now with some research based on the Parkinson's to Jordan's. Is that helping from a financial standpoint to try to progress this research? Because, the funding, I'm sure, is probably limited. And the more rare it is, it seems that the harder it is to get the funding, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think funding is always like the biggest, concern when looking at, anything. And I think that, when we kind of look at different outlets, but we see like such a connection between Jordan's and Parkinson's.
Okay.
And I think that that's definitely helpful when looking at, are there other treatments that are going to maybe, co-treat Parkinson's, co-treat Jordan's, and I'm not a scientist, and, sometimes I get lost and I get, a little bit confused, but I think that there's a lot of links and a lot of things that can definitely help in the medical world. But I know like financially with, the Jordan's Foundation, I know a lot of the families, try to do a lot of fundraising too. And we've tried to do some fundraising on different scales, whether it, they're all beneficial, anything we can do as a foundation to progress is wonderful.
Okay. So if someone wanted to help donate, where would be the best place for them to go?
So actually the Jordan's Guardian Angels has their own webpage, and they have like a direct link where everything could be, donated directly to them.
And we'll put it in the description as well. So
Thank
you guys will be able to click that.
Yeah. So anything to help spread awareness, and for those that want to donate and help research, we'll be glad to do. Is there any other avenue that maybe folks can do other than, like you said, maybe have some fundraisers for for something like this? I don't know. Does she will she be going to a special school, you think?
Yeah, so she's in school right now, and
Okay.
it is like the best place in the world. She gets all her therapies and a wonderful education, and like most importantly, she gets the most unbelievable amount of love from her teachers and therapists.
Oh, that's
So
great.
Yeah, we're very fortunate where she is.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you can go and she can go to school and you don't have to worry about her one bit because
Hmm.
she's loving it. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yeah.
she's in good hands. That's awesome. So, yeah. So maybe at a school, maybe you have a fundraiser or some
Yeah,
sort of awareness day or something like that. So
definitely.
I just appreciate your time and I appreciate you sharing with us your experience and how it has been for you, your family, and Haley, and just educating us on this syndrome, this condition that I didn't know about. I ran across you on Instagram with your Mama Bear for Rare, and I looked into your blog and I thought, oh wow, what an amazing lady, amazing family,
Oh,
and what
thank
a
you.
great person to kind of share this information with us and to explain, what this condition is. So I don't
Thank
know,
you
Phil,
so
do you
much.
have any more questions before we let her go?
Yeah, just kind of jokingly, but what does she eat? Because
Yeah, there you
our
go.
kids are probably very, very picky, so I just want to compare.
Well, because of her low tone, she's not chewing food yet. But she pretty much her diet is consisting of it's a protein it's a pea protein based formula that she pretty much gets all of her nutrients from,
Mm.
and she does a lot of purees. And she loved yogurt up until recently when her school was actually they're amazing. They're so aware of everything Haley, and they were calling. They're like, we're a little concerned, maybe an allergist is the next, step. So I took her to an allergist. She is allergic to dairy.
Oh no!
Oh
Oh, come
no.
on!
Yeah, I'm not done.
Oh.
Tree nuts and eggs. I was like, great.
Oh. All things with great protein. Yeah. Well, there we
Yeah.
go.
So that's been fun. And, we're trying to figure out what, alternatives we can find. I found a yogurt alternative that she was like, I'll take it. She didn't really mind, but she's so easygoing. But yeah, that's kind of like where her nutrition comes from is mostly her formula still.
Oh, that's a good question. Her temperament. You said she's very easygoing, so you don't see is she not a lot of frustrating or tantrums or anything like that just because she can't communicate or get it across what she wants.
Oh, she definitely has tantrums. She's has a 4-year-old tantrum every once in a
Okay.
while, but like
Okay.
90% of the time, she is just smiles, happiness. She's just pure sweetness. So we are so
Oh.
blessed with her.
Oh, I just think
Oh,
that's phenomenal. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
she's a
great.
good
yeah,
girl.
it really is. It really, really is. Wow. Well, just thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
and for just spreading this information and sharing with us. We just so appreciate it. And we will put up it's Mama Bear for Rare, her blog.
Mhm.
We'll put up the links to Jordan's Guardian Angels website for those that may be interested in donating. Or is there a way can they connect with you, or is there an email or anything that you have from a foundation standpoint, or anything that maybe someone, if they have questions, could reach out to you or to the organization, possibly?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to reach out to me and I could direct them to the organization, or if they want to reach out to me, directly, typically Instagram, I'm pretty quick to answer that,
Okay,
a message or whatever it may be.
perfect.
And I'm always willing to give out a phone number if someone just wants to ask me questions. So, any way that anyone wants to get in contact with me is probably best bet is Instagram.
Great, great. Well,
Great,
good to
great.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thank
we'll make
you.
sure we have links for that too, just to make sure that if anyone wants to can reach out and I just think it's thank you for sharing again and for being a part of a great community. It's very supportive and with the daughter that just seems to be thriving. I just think
Oh,
that's awesome. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for having me. It was so nice chatting with you both.
Yes, and everybody, don't forget to head to our website, medicalmazepodcast.com. Each episode has a blog, other videos, our YouTube channel is linked to that as well. And if you want to register to be a guest, you can do that on the website as well. So from Don Ellen and myself and Michelle, we'll catch you guys later. See ya.
Bye.
Hang on, Michelle. Don't hang up.